Today we're going to deconstruct a beef chuck roll upon request by a few of my followers. So I'm showing this cutting board first. It's actually a tub, a collapsible tub. And I wanted you guys to know that these things are expensive. You know, they run, this is the large one, they run about 50 bucks I think it is. And you can go to Sam's Club actually and get the similar version in black and gray. It's the medium size for $15. So if you're interested in something like this, it's a cutting board, comes up as a tray with a lid, and will definitely save you some time and mess. Anyway, I wanted to also showcase these knives. My large butcher's knife and my small fillet knife, also called a butcher's knife, but I'm using a sharp fillet knife that I own. I prefer it. Sticks good in my hand. High quality knives are essential to keeping a nice edge, so that's what these are. I also use my fillet knife on my whetstone to make it extra sharp. So without further ado, we'll get the chuck roll loaded onto this cutting board here, and I'm going to showcase it for you for a second to show you all the different aspects of it. Okay, so here she is, just over 19 pounds and just over $140 at Sam's Club. This is your chuck roll. Now, the reason for the video is I have shown just the images in the past. If we turn this guy around, gal guy, whatever you want to call it, you can see this seam line right here, okay? This is where it's going to separate. We're going to pull it apart. I will be doing these videos in stages since I'm filming myself, but I'll show you. And here you can see what I like to call, even though it's not really a tenderloin, it's kind of like a tenderloin. It's really soft and very tasty. You can see that here. This is all part. Some people just slice this straight across here and just make, you know, roasts and steaks out of it. We're not doing that today. So we're going to deconstruct this entire thing. And I'll show you. There's definitely that line going through here. There might be another one up top here, I'm seeing. And each one might be a little different. Either in the video or in the comments, I'll put what I got out of each one. This is my third one. First one, I got a bunch of more steaks. The second one, though, I got some really tasty, really tender steaks, along with a lot of separated fat for reducing later into tallow or to do whatever I'll cook with, whatever. So the final side of this looks like that. So what we'll be doing as we separate, we'll also be squaring up with a knife, cutting things out. But most of your stuff, when we start separating, it's going to come apart with your hands. And then you'll just use your little fillet knife or your little butcher's knife, whatever you want to call it, to assist you in cutting through the silver skin and any fat that's holding on. Now, as you can see right here, this is the line I was talking about. I flipped it over. And you can see it right here where it's going to separate. I also wanted to show you is this. You see this, the grain of the meat? This is going to be super tender as well. And this is, see right there, I was telling you that's tender. This here. And all this is going to separate right now from this bottom part. And you're just going to yank on this and pull it apart and put a knife where you need to separate the two. All right, well, I have an assistant now, my wife. So as you can see right here, this is where it pulls apart. And we're just going to pull on this and cut and do everything that's necessary. And again, the beauty of these things is there's no right way to process these chuck rolls. You cut the meat that you want, but this is the way I was shown to break it down. And I like this way. And you, again, you may end up with a few more seams in this. And that's okay too. Separate it how you want. Pull it how you want, and as I go, you can see there's a lot of connective tissues there, and you can see how it's really two separate pieces. If you get in there, you can really see how it's pulling. It's just pulling. Use your thumbs, your fingers, whatever you want, and just keep pulling, and it will slowly come apart. And tough parts like here, you can just see how sharp, nice and sharp that is. Make sure your knives are extra sharp. And I can just keep pulling on this, and then where needed, We just separate with the knife. Go down. Open it up. Again. You can see how sharp that knife is. You want the knife to do the work for you. You can start to see how this is becoming something. Now I'm going about average speed. I mean, you can go faster or slower. Remember, you got a sharp knife. It's safer than a dull knife, but you still don't want to go too fast and hurt yourself. And especially you're doing this the first time, you might want to go a little slower, but that's what I'm doing for this training session anyway. That way you can teach yourself, because as I said, every piece is a little different. And what you don't want to do is get carried away and do what you don't want to process. Now, like I said, there's no wrong rhyme or reason, but if you want to do it like I did it to get what I get out of these, this is what I do. You can see how it just falls away. I'm just letting the meat and the knife do all the work here. See? That's just falling away. You can see this seam here starting to taper out. So we just keep going. Let the knife and the weight of the meat just kind of guide you. There we go. So we got this nice big old chunk of meat here. We got this beautiful meat here. As you can see the grain in here. This is where we're going to get that nice steak out of that is absolutely tender and delicious. It'll come off of here. And we'll trim things like this fat. You can see here too. Here's another seam. So where this might be, end up being just some flat meat this time. On the last one I got about a ½ inch thick steaks out of it. Three nice ones. And you can see there's some steak there. So it's your choice. You can leave this together at this point, and you can see how there's a different steak here. There's a lot of this hard fat, and you can cut these into portion steaks. And what I did on my first one, I actually took this steak out as a whole, and we're gonna end up smoking it and doing that with it, and then we reverse sear in a cast iron pan. A little bit of rosemary, garlic cloves, olive oil, and butter, and with my homemade seasonings. You can also just do salt and pepper, or the Holy Trinity: salt, pepper, garlic, granular garlic, or garlic powder. Personally, I prefer the granular for cooking, garlic powder for like stews and other things, because it likes to get clumpy. A lot of people use powdered onion. Again, I don't like it because it gets clumpy. I just don't use it in my personal homemade seasoning. But again, this hard fat will get removed. So I'm going to inspect this right now. It looks to me like this is going to separate out. So I can just start by removing this, and I'll just set it aside. And I'll just have my camera woman stay focused on what I'm doing here. We'll show you all the pieces when we're done, what we ended up with. But you can see there's a lot of separation here. So I prefer to separate all this. So you got a hard piece of fat here. You just keep your fingers out of the way, and it separates. Now, don't get too aggressive with it. Just let it take you on a journey. It's a good way to look at it, because you definitely have to give it a little muscle. But if you yank too hard in certain things, you're just ripping meat apart. You probably should have just cut into steaks, if that makes sense. As you see, that knife, a little love and care, is razor sharp again. It's guiding me along this seam. So you just want to look for all this fat and this silver skin, and you want to just follow these. Okay, so what we're going to end up getting out here, I'm seeing already a beautiful tenderloin steak right here. All right. We actually have lots of other names for it, but for right now, that's what we're calling it. When I post these, I call the steaks certain steaks, but the reality is, it is what it is. You only get so many certain types of steaks out of a chuck roll. And right here, It's looking to me like there's meat crossing. So even though there's fat here, there's a hard piece of meat. Not hard, but you know, it's solid, I should say. So we're just gonna go ahead and we'll trim that out. And now, look at this, beautiful. I'll get a couple beautiful steaks out of this. I think last time I called these flat irons. So that's what we're calling them now too. So these are flat iron steaks. Just focus with me here. We'll set this aside. That's going to be a beautiful piece of meat. And you don't have to remove all this, okay? But the hard fat, it's not a bad idea. We're not taking the marbleization away. No, we're not doing anything that's going to harm the flavor and the profile of the steak. All we're doing is removing this stuff for later. Again, you can see the hard fat here. So we'll just trim away at this. Now, you don't want to take all of it off. I'm not saying that either. But just the stuff that's not going to render when you cook right away, or anything else for that matter, we want to just kind of get rid of. So I'll keep working on this. I just wanted to show you what we do. But you'll just take your knife and you'll cut it along here. And carefully remove that. Try not to get that much meat. I try not to. A lot of this you can pull off with your hand if you give it a little work. But you're also, this is also out of the refrigerator. You want to cut it right when it's cold, so it's stiffer and easier to cut. Forgot to mention that. But you see here, we're going to have some nice meat out of this as well. And some of this might end up as stir fry. We'll see when we get in the other large piece. So that's going to be next. I'm going to go around that. I'm going to observe it, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so I flipped this large piece over that we're working on. I put the other two aside. Now you can see right here, you got an oblong piece of meat. You see it's all over the place still. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy off. Again, this is the very nice stuff for stir fry right here. You can see by all the grain of the meat. You see these long striping lines. This stuff, when you cook it, look for this, because this is going to tenderize beautifully. So we're going to cut that off. We're going to clean up this piece, and we're going to start cutting out our chuck eyes out of this, as well as our Denver steak. So, and we're going to clean up this fat. You can see there's some big chunks of fat there. If I go to this side, you can see the big chunk. Again, you won't waste any of this. Beautiful thing about these chuck rolls is that every bit can get utilized, and you can make, again, whatever you want. Okay, so as you can see here, we're going to remove this piece now, and we're going to start squaring up this large piece of meat here. So again, just use your eyes. That's what I say. Follow that line. You can see it looks like this piece, if I were to turn it over and look at it, it really goes into this other, and that's okay, because we're going to get as much meat as we desire out of this thing. So now the reason I flipped it over, and it's probably easier for me to see than the camera, is just so I can see this this fat and silver skin line a little bit better flipped towards me. And we're just going to keep working at it and go down this fat seam. Can you see that here? Okay. All of that's just going to come away. You can see how much fat's in there. Again, nothing will get wasted here. And this is all what you want out of it at the end of the day. So when I flip it back over, now I got a defined line. You can see, look at this. Look at that, it just pulls away. That can go later into the chunks of meat for stir fry or for stews, whatever. But we just want to, again, I'm going slow for you guys so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to take this piece off. You can see the lines. We're just removing this nice little piece of meat here. So just follow the fat. Follow the fat. Look at that. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. Look at that. It just falls away. You guys make what you want. Oh, he's doing it wrong. He don't know what he's doing. He's talking about. Okay, well, then you do it your way. Each one of these is different. They're not all exactly the same. But we can take a piece of meat like this, trim it away. I'll save you time, and you can watch the finished pieces when I'm done trimming these. I won't record every bit of it, but you can see how it's hard fat. You ain't gonna be able to chew on that. You don't want to. Take it off. It ain't gonna do anything for your flavor. It's a bit of meat on that. We can render that, and we can save the meat too. That goes over into the fat pile right now. So, look at that. Another beautiful, you see that grain? This is another beautiful flat iron style steak. And we can trim that up, and we will. We'll square this. We'll rectangle it up because these are long. And then all this will go to the good stir fry meat because the grain in this meat is high quality. So we'll set that aside. And again, all these are going to get rendered out more. We're just, right now, all we're working on is getting all the little steaks and all the little trimmings off. And look at this. Look at this, guys. This is going to work out beautifully because here you go. Here's all your steaks. And here's another line to cut out. You know, a lot of the guys, when they go and they use, we're going to use Big Boy here in a minute. When they use this, they just cut the whole thing. They don't break it down like this. And you got these beautiful steaks, but you got these huge separation lines and fat and gristle and silver skin inside of here. And frankly, I don't like that when I eat a steak. I don't think that's something good. What I want, you know, remember, this is a chuck roll. It's low end of the meat, and that's okay. It makes some really good meat in here. And I'm about this marbleization. That's what I'm looking for. See this inside the meat and how it's just kind of like marble. If you were to look at marble, that's what they call it, marbleization. It looks like a piece of marble, a slab of marble. And that's what you want to look for. This hard fat, this gristle, this silver skin, this is the stuff you don't want. Who wants that? You cut this out. Who wants that in a steak? No one. It doesn't add flavor. It's stuff you have to deal with. Gets in your mouth. It's hard to chew. You know, don't worry about it. So what I'm doing here is I'm inspecting. I'm looking for the line. See here? See right there? That's where this is connecting to where our steaks are. Where we're going to cut our steaks out of. So I'm just going to... And again, do what's comfortable for you. I like to take my time with these. Yes, I can do them a little faster. But I prefer, for the video's sake and for my own sake, that I take my time and get the most out of what I'm looking for to cook. And heck, you don't know. Like, I do chickens too. You don't know. You can make anything you want. You don't know where you may be eating that night. You go, hey, let's use this for this. Make anything you want out of it, guys. Alright, so we're going to just, you can see right here, I'm holding it up. So I'm just following, look back here, see all this fat in here? I'm following this line down around here. You guys see it now? This is one whole section of meat. So that's what I'm looking at. So I'm following. So here, I'm back up top here. And all I got to do is I just slowly take this away. Again, I'm following that fat line. You can see it goes right through that meat because this is a separate piece of meat here. And so I'm just scoring the back so it helps separate it without cutting all the way through. So again, I can get my best meat. You see that I'm still following that fat out of this without losing anything. But again, when I say losing anything, it's all here to be used. So it comes down to just taking your time. There we go. Next is going to be all that beautiful steak. But you see there, look at these lines, these striations, this grain. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is going to be another nice piece of meat. And you'll cut off, we haven't started our stir fry, but this will go to that, all these loose ends. But we have fat here. See that? That was a good piece there. It just took off. Nice. And this will go into our tallow renderings, or use for whatever you want. Flavor, grind it into some ground beef. You can do that with some of this. You can see here how this is coming nicely off. Right? Yeah. Now you look at that. Look at all this fat. That's not going to help you with nothing as far as this goes. And if you look close, this is oblong. It's going to get cut. It's going to get trimmed. But right here you can see, look at this. If I just pull, you can see all that fat. Then this in itself, when you get into this kind of stuff, you can see that's just even across here. This will be stew meat. You see how much fat's rendered in that, right? You start to lose some of that grain. You can still see some of it on this hanger. But this is more of a stew meat. You're getting into the heavier, thicker fat. And you don't want that. This here you can see if you turn it. Look at that. It's fat. So instead of messing around with this at this point, I'll just cut that off completely. Because once I cut that other piece off, I saw that this gristle runs all the way through that tail. So we'll set this aside. We'll trim more of the fat off of it, and this will be stew meat. Okay? So next will be to cut off this tail from this piece of meat. And the other thing I wanted to look at with you is this hard fat here. We'll render all that, cut it off. Now, you see here, this is where we started. Here's that beautiful little steak right here. This is going to be nice, but from here, there is a line. You see that line? That's hard fat in there. I'll dig in and I'll cut some of that out. But at this point, we're going to square this nice big piece up. Okay? We're going to get some of that off of there. And just clean it up, square it up. And then we're going to make steaks out of this. And it's going to be beautiful. And then we'll get back to the other cuts that we separated. And I'll show you what I do with those. Alright, so we're going to take the tail off of here. This is beautiful meat. That'll go in our stir-fry pile. Okay. Little silver skin. You can take off an hour later. And it doesn't really matter. You can yank that off. But for time's sake, we'll set this aside. And this, because of the grain, this will go into stir-fry. This will be the stir-fry pile. Setting that aside over there. And then you can see the little steaks you can get out of that too. We can portion this up. I can square this up like this here. Again, just look at it. If you want it to be precision and you like that kind of stuff, you like to be disciplined and you like precision, I do. I love that kind of stuff. So this will go in the stir fry. Just make it look beautiful. So if you want to present something to your family, and you show that you butchered this yourself and then you cooked it and you made it how you wanted. Again, look at this. The stuff that comes off easy, take it. The rest, just leave some of it. You don't have to remove all of it, but again, it all depends what you're looking for. So you can see that's a beautiful piece of meat right there. So having said that, we're going to set this piece aside now, and we'll cut this up, and I'll show you all that process last when we actually end up in the steaks. You can fast forward this video if that's all you're interested in. That's what I do when I'm watching videos. Your choice. So again, we're going to remove this hard fat, and you can see, like I just showed you, this is where that little tenderloin I was telling you about was. And that runs down the bottom side of this. You can leave it or take it, do whatever you want. Once you start cutting them, if you don't like what you see when you start cutting them, and a ½ inch to inch, whatever steaks you want, then you can deal with it then. I learned in Boy Scouts not to cut towards myself. In the real world, that's not really realistic sometimes. So you kind of have to just go with the flow of things and do your best to be safe as you can. Again, number one thing is a sharp, sharp knife, especially when you're doing this kind of meat. And focus too. You don't really want to be talking to anybody and making videos either way, but I'm doing this for all of you. So now, here's what we got. Here's all of our steaks. Now Big Bertha comes in here, and you can see, just again, eyeball it. You can cut it as far as up here, down here, whatever you want. I like to get more steaks out of this than not. So we're at tapers here. Personally, if you're going to do it, you just want big steaks, start here. Me, You can see the taper from here to here. I just like to go somewhere maybe in between. That way I can get one or two maybe baby steaks out of it. Something quick for breakfast. You're really hungry, you just want to throw in the frying pan. So I'll just go here. Look at that. Beautiful meat. Look at it. Really good stuff. Now, you can see that. Look at that. You got a big chunk of fat there. Again, when you start slicing these, if you don't like what you see, you can always break it down more. I'm going to leave that for right now, even though technically I would take that off. I can trim it up once it's done. But, and you see me doing this, it's just to keep the shape, especially as it starts warming up out of the refrigerator. This here, you could probably get a little bit more out of it. And trim this fat off. Maybe some stew meat. Grain looks good in here. Maybe stir fry. Again, we'll set that aside. Now, on this end, you can see how it's straight here, but it curves a little bit. So what I'll do, I took that fat off of here. I'm just going to straighten this up. I don't like the waste of steak part. So I'll take a thin trimming off of here. And there you go. This is what I'm talking about. You can eat this in a small portion, you know, and then you have this, but look at this fat. See that? So this will go to trimmings. This will be stew. You see there's some good marbleization, but the grain ain't there like the other piece. You don't see those striations. This is going to be a lot tougher. That's why it's great for stew, because it gets boiled down, steamed down. Look at this. See that? You don't want to eat that. You don't want to fry that up and eat that. You want to put that into your, and cut the good meat off for the stew. But that'll be stew meat. This will be for the rendering for fat, and we'll clean that up too. So that goes to stew. And off out of camera sight, I intentionally did it this way. I put all the steaks aside and I'm separating everything now. And again, I'll show that to you later, whether it's in picture form or video. I will do a comprehensive breakdown for you either way. And if you want, you can also ask and comment for those pictures or however it ends up. Sometimes, even though I'm technologically advanced, it ends up being a pain in the butt for some things. So now we got a straight line. I take my knife like this. This has a huge chunk of fat in it. And again, we can render that out. But if you just kind of eyeball it, I like to not put the knife over my thumb, but you go to your knuckle of your thumb. That's about, for me anyway, that's about a ½ an inch to an inch. So I like to just eyeball it. Whatever you want to do, even use a ruler or tape measure to start out. It's fine with me. Whatever makes you happy. Now you want to just look down the knife edge, top of the knife, and you want to see that you got a nice straight line. And the most important thing is you just want to cut straight down. If you're not sure, you can just make a slice across the top. I do that a lot too. And then it just gives me a line to follow. You can see this hard fat. So this will be our first chuck steak. And we'll set this aside. But again, there's a lot of hard fat in there. And again, you can also make mini steaks. These are great for just cooking up, but it's going to be a little tougher. Again, it's a chuck, and that's okay. So again, I can straighten up my hand. I like to pat it just so I can physically see a straight line, and then I just keep cutting. And that one's going to have a lot more too, because that had a lot of fat on the end cap that I cut off and showed you guys what to do. There you go. So another one. Square it up. Try to keep that knife as straight as possible. And just go through, and if it doesn't cut the last little bit, because my knife is sharp, just let it fall over and finish cutting. I don't know if you picked that up right now or not when I was cutting, but camera woman, but I let it fall away, then I finish slicing, because these things are so delicate that they'll just fall apart on you if you go to yank on it, and you don't want that. If you're trying to serve something, present it, make it look beautiful. You can see that they're about the same thickness. This one probably a little thicker. Again, you can measure it out if it bothers you that much. Again, I take the knife, I like to slide it to the side, make it straight. And again, ½ inch steaks. roughly eyeballing them. Now, especially if this is for you, it doesn't really matter. You don't have a restaurant, who cares? Now you can see there, it says how much better that's looking now. So, you know, again, do what you want with them. You want to rip them apart, cut them up as stew, do it. Personally, I like to get these steaks out of this part again. I'm going to set that over here so it's out of the way. And if you have a crooked looking line, could just be because the meat's getting warmer, because you're chopping away, doing your butcher thing, learning a new skill, and it's just getting softer because it is getting warmer. And you want to try to, you know, take your time, but also remember, you don't want the meat to go bad. So the point is definitely have a helper when you go to vacuum seal these things. I'm thinking right about there. So you see how it can be. I left it that way on purpose. How you might have a piece at the end there, at each end that's attached. Don't pull it away. Let that sucker fall, and then make your steak. Again, to me, this is the most labor-intensive part because I'm trying to keep the steaks as even as possible, and I don't want them to come out all crooked. And some will. It's okay. Again, if it's just for you and your family, it doesn't really matter. Now, if you're trying to make something for a bunch of guests, probably, if you want perfection, get out the ruler. But you don't need to. You definitely don't. Look at that. That's beautiful. Good marbleization. A little bit of hard fat. Some of that can be rendered if you know what you're doing. So squaring it up again. Keeping your eyes straight down that blade. And making sure too, this left and right matters. Sometimes I found myself halfway down turning it. You want to try to keep it as straight as possible. Otherwise you're going to put a big divot in your meat. And you're not going to be eyeballing it while you're cutting it because you got to put your elbow grease into it. See right there, I almost pulled away. Just cut it off. Look at that. Beautiful marbleization in this. You see that marbleization. Gorgeous. It's got, almost looks like Chinese writing. So we're getting close to that end. It's going to get more gelatinous. And it's okay if you got to go a little thicker. Again, you'll see a little sawing action. It's a little, see how it's falling apart? That's the kind of falling apart you want. Not on that big old seam. You can see it falling over now. So we're probably going to get just a couple more steaks out of this. And this is getting into that beautiful tenderloin. You can see how it's just slowly falling over because it's getting warmer. We're getting into that good meat. Look at that. Now, realistically, guys, I could cut this in half with the fillet knife, or aka butcher knife. Okay, it's a huge chunk of fat. By the time I do that, you're gonna have nothing there. So, what I'd recommend is just taking this chunk off. We talked about this before. Once it's cut, render it. Look at that, just fat. Okay, so that goes over there in the pile. And then we can just go, okay, well, leave it like that. Like, press it down lightly. You don't want to get something that's not real. You can make that prettier if you want. I was thinking about trimming some of that. Or you can leave it. I kind of like my steaks flat on both sides versus rounded. It just makes it easier to evenly cook. So that's what I'm thinking about here. You don't have to. But if you take this and you just cut that bottom belly off, there you go. See, there's a little hump there. That's some of that fat. That's some of that good meat. So that'll go into the good pile for stir fry. Stuff you can cook quick and it doesn't get hard as a rock. Follow me? So that's what we're talking about here. So I'm just going to trim this a little. As you can see, it's really starting to move because it's warm. Not that the meat's that warm, it's just the frosting from the Sub-Zero refrigerator. There we go. Got a little bit of a cap on it still, but we got some of this off. This will go in the fat renderings over yonder. So we ended up here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 beautiful steaks, all chucks. And we will be processing some Denvers, or not, out of the other cuts, depending on their thickness and their final product, how they look, the size, shape, and everything. Okay, so these are going to be our flat irons with this beautiful grain lines running through them. Now you can see two different types here. We got 3 here. Where do you see 3, you say? Right here's 1, and here's 2, because we're going to cut that down the middle. It's already perfect. So again, we just call it the tail. We can just trim this up. You can see a line of meat underneath there, so you can trim it up how you want. You want to go a little further in? You want to take a little more? Beauty of the chuck roll. The chuck roll obeys its master, whatever you want to make out of it. Okay, so just that goes in the fat. The fat, again, I'll show you everything at the end. And now see here, if you want to make a nice little petite, you could just cut that right here. See the lines? Follow the lines, folks. Follow the lines. And you could just either round that or square it and make it beautiful. But for me, I wanted something, I think, a little bit rounder. And I'm just looking to rectangle this sucker up. So I'll just make it into a line, nice and pretty. And then I will, right there, okay? This will definitely go in the stir fry pile. That's going to go over there. Now, you said, well, I don't like that little hanger. Well, good, take it off. Again, folks, you're just making what you want out of it. The silver skin, you can pull some of it off, but keep in mind, you're probably going to want to cut this more off than anything. Because the problem here is, it's not a problem, it's a good thing. This is super tender meat. So you don't want to be yanking too hard at this point. Even though, yes, you can just pull it off. See, you can keep yanking, and then look at the meat. It's coming apart. I did that to show you that on purpose. So all we want to do, cut that, take all that junk off, put it aside. Now look at that steak. Beautiful, right? So we're going to do the same here, but this is already, you watched me cut it up. So instead of going crazy with this one, that's a beautiful piece of meat. It might not be square. That's okay. But if you want to make it square, look. You just take your very sharp knife. And you just cut this away. Like that. Look at that. Beautiful piece. Goes in the stir fry. Now you got a nice straighted up edge. And you can just take off some of this stuff hanging right there. Eyeball it, measure it, however you want to do it. I'm thinking right there is close to the middle. And there you have it, okay? Now, you can see here, this is also a small Denver because of the lines and the way I separated it. We're going to try to make some Denvers out of the other stuff. But you can cut little steaks out of here. You could have left that on, made it a little thicker, but remember you had all that fat inside of there. So that piece there, just throw that in the fat pile. Look at it. Look at it. Can't ask for much more than that. It's beautiful. And it's thick. You're going to get a beautiful, super tender, like a filet mignon tenderloin out of that. That's what you're going to get. So we got 3 of those. Thin one, 2 thick ones. Heck, if you wanted, you could butterfly these, and then you'd have 4 or 5 steaks. It's up to you. It's up to you. All right, so we got this next piece we had set aside in the beginning. This is this big piece. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I just want to get a couple Denvers out of this one. So we're just going to trim this up, cut the fat off the back, square this up, and we're going to use these ones here for the Denvers. So first off, you're going to say, well, oh my God, why are you cutting that meat off? Because that's stew meat. I'm trying to square this up. That's all we're doing. We want to get rid of as much of this heavy fat as we can. Again, if you pull up and you just follow it, you try to reduce the loss of meat. Again, nothing's actually going to finally be a loss But we just keep taking this fat, trim it up, make it look beautiful. You know, truth is, as everybody's found out, they went to all these different meats or different oils and stuff and cooked things for years, saying it wasn't healthy to have beef tallow. Well, guess what? This fat is healthy for you. And this is beef. This is beef tallow comes out of this. So, you know, here's a piece of meat for the stew. It's got some fat. That's fine. Just want to cut off all the weird pieces. And again, there's some meat just following along here. We're going to go ahead and finish this up, and we'll flip it over and show you the rest. Okay, so I trimmed a lot of the fat off of here. I just left little pieces, you know, little bits and gristle. You can keep going if you want. You can keep going like this. But that's what I'm doing. That's it. So we're going to flip this over, and we're going to chop this. And this is where we're going to start getting into some of our heavier stir-fry bits and pieces, and we'll chop those up next. I mean, just chop them in the cubes. I'll show you a little bit of that in a minute. But you don't need a full lesson in that. You just cut it up how you want it. So again, here, go halfway the transition. That's what I like to do. We'll set that aside. Beautiful. Now, with this here, this looks like the first one I did. It looks more like a whole steak. So if I'm gonna even do anything with this, the first one I did, I just left this whole steak and just cooked it that way. So you can get what you want out of it. We're gonna try to cut a few pieces. They may end up just be thin strips because of the way this one pulled apart. You can see this this edge here. It's kind of thick, but again, it's also kind of thin. So what I'm going to do with this, I think I'm just going to go ahead and, there's a lot of loose meat on the side. So all I'm doing, that silver skin loves to make their knives look dull, and they're not. You see this has some good grain in it. We'll set that aside. This side looks pretty good. I think if I'm going to do anything with this side, just square up this a little bit. Set that aside. See? No silver skin, no dull knife. Went right through. We always like to make fun of the people on these videos when they have dull knives, but the reality is, a lot of times it's not the case. It's just damn meat, especially that skin and that fat. So we'll cut these. These are going to end up being more like strips, like little strips of meat. And you do whatever you want with them. This is what I'm doing with this piece. And again, the first one I did, I made this into just a steak because I could see how thin it was. And we still got our nice Denvers out of it. You can see it's almost going crooked there. It ain't perfect. Again, the more gelatinous it gets as it warms up, the harder it is to cut these. Yeah. Let's see that silver skin making that knife look dull again when you just watched it kill it a minute ago. Now, you can see how it's starting to get soft and flop all over the place. We're just going to trim this up right here. And there you go. Alright, so like I said, these are going to be more strips. Now these are technically your Denvers. There's a couple more I can cut up and get out of them. But in this case, this is what we ended up with this time. That might be enough for you. You might want one of those, two of those, who knows. With some steak, or some eggs, steak and eggs. Also, when these cook, they're going to thicken up a lot. So, that last piece is what it is. I can also just turn on the stew meat if I want. But as you can see, these are little petite steaks. But these will be your Denvers. And I'm looking at my side meat over here. Side meat. That's a funny name. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and keep cutting. But for right now, we ended up with 2, 4, 6, 8 steaks. This one's more just chunked in steak, but hey, not bad. Not bad at all. Continue on with the rest, and we'll get back to it. Alright, so I guess we're pretty much down to our stew meat. I am going to be honest with you, I'd like to really use that and make a couple more steaks. But if I flip this over, oh, it's a scary monster. Not really. But you got a lot of fat, you got a lot of lines going here. It's all over the place. So like I said, I'll just use those little cuts I just made as Denver steaks, and this I may try to get a couple more out of. But this is going to be the process for the rest of our meat. So we want to continue to just take off, trying to get a right angle on it without cutting my fingers off. And it's gonna, it's gonna be slippery, folks. You just take your time, take all that fat, put it in the fat pile. Fat you can cut up now or later, it doesn't really matter. But cubes and chunks on the rest. Let's get it done now, because why screw with it when you got to cook a meal and you're tired and you want it quick. This is the whole reason for what we're doing here. So we start cutting off all these tails, as we called them. And you can see this has some good striation in the meat. If you look here, with all this fat and stuff, this is definitely going to go into the stew meat pile, because it doesn't have the quality of grain, tenderness that the rest is going to have. Now you could keep separating that and messing with it. I was just looking inside of it to see if there's any more heavy fat, which there really isn't much. It's more on the back. And we're just going to cube all this up. So that being said, I put it aside. You can see this ugly monster. So we can just cut here. And that's the beautiful stir fry. You can see those lines, striations in there. Beautiful. Getting a lot more stir fry in this one than I did the last one. And again, you can see it kind of, the steak ends kind of there. So if we just take that, that's beautiful stir fry meat. We're getting a lot of stir fry this time because of the beautiful grain in this meat. Now you're saying, God, those are tiny steaks. Yeah, they are kind of small. Don't do it then. Cut it up and use it for stir fry. Again, do whatever you guys want. You want to ground it up and make beautiful ground beef? Throw some of that fat in there. Do a nice 80-20, 60-40, whatever you want to do. Do it. So, there we go. Got one. And I'm hoping for 2, but I don't think so. We can give it a try. I think we got one out of there for sure. What do you think? Those really aren't steaks, That's gonna go into the stir fry. So I like even numbers. I think that this one's kind of small too. 8's good. 8's a good even number. So we tried. We looked at it. You know what? I don't really think that's much of a steak there. I think the solid pieces. If you just stay here a minute, I grab one of the Denvers I made. Okay, see how solid that is? That marbleization, where this is kind of broken apart in the pieces. So that's what I was looking for here. Is this? You see how it's solid? I was hoping for one more steak, but I'm probably going to cut that up. Who knows? You see, they're kind of similar as to where these are full of fat. So that's what you need to be looking for in a steak. Something more like this. We're not talking about the chucks either. We're talking about the Denvers, the nicer meat, as far as tenderness goes.
2, 3.
Okay, so we deem that not steakable. Not steakable, that's a new one. Alright, so we're just going to cut these 1-inch squares, 2-inch squares, whatever you want. Whatever's manageable for you. This is all going to go into the stew meat. Again, grains. That's the reason, mostly because of the grain. So we'll set that aside. See what we end up with. This, the thin pieces, just, a little bigger is okay, because those are tiny. Again, you're just chopping these up. You want to square them up better? Do it. Make what you want. That was our almost steak. We got to try, right? So we'll just cut these up. See that fat? Makes your knife look dull when it just cut your fingers right off your hand if you tried. Alright. It's a little bigger than I want. It's okay to have smaller pieces too, guys. Make what's good for you. Alright, so we're just going to continue cutting. That's okay, it's fine, it's thin, so this one I'll just cut in half. So I'm going to continue this process until I'm done. Alright, so this is going to be your stew meat. It's all piled up. You can see it's a pretty good pile. We're going to weigh it out right now. Okay, so I know that's on the screen. It's going, well, it was changing. 2.3 points. Well, it's 2 pounds, 13.7 ounces. I'll just say it that way. So almost 3 pounds, just under 3 pounds of stew meat. All right, so when we were doing the stew meat, this beautiful little steak came out of there. So, and also this is going to be the stir fry. This also has that beautiful grain to it, and it's literally like the ones we just cut up and made into flat iron steaks. So I think what I'm going to do is trim this up a little bit and do that with this one as well. Okay, so this is going to be my little tenderloin pack. Now this has the same grain of beautiful striation as my other flat irons, which were a lot thicker, which you could also consider the rest of the Denver. But again, you make what you want out of it. But this will go in a 3-pack like I did last time with just tenderloins. All very tender meat. That would just be a special piece whenever we want to use it.
Yeah.
So here's all of our stir fry. Again, this is because of the grain in here. Now there's some fat on there. That's okay. You can remove that now or later. But you can see the difference in quality. These are all the tails that we cut up off of the other good stuff, the Denvers and the flat irons, whatever you want to make or call them. It's up to you. But you can see how tender this meat's going to be compared to the rest. And we got a little bit of mix everything in here, but it's the higher quality of the meat out of the roll. So again, we're just going to cut these into squares, 1 to 2 inch squares or whatever you want, and just kind of eyeball it. It's all going to go in the stir fry in this case. So, I tend to like to stay for the stir fry on a little bit smaller side. Stew meat doesn't matter as much. It's going to be stewed up and fall apart when it's done. So it's not like you have to bite this when it's a little bit stiffer and it's fried in a pan. You can see that could almost be a steak there because of the quality of meat. So as you see my pile here, I'm going to go through and cut all this up. Okay, so we're down to our last piece. And something I wanted to show you, I say this for last, you can see we're going to have probably about 2 pounds again of the good stir-fry meat. And wanted to show you on this the difference. You never want to cut with the front of your knife. This is just used for large slicing pieces of meat. You want to be from about where this meat is back. So the back of your blade's where you cut. Alright? See how that just went right through? Now you take the front of your knife and you got to saw a little bit, okay? Your sharpest part of your knife's back here, always. So I just wanted to show you that. Or as my dad would say, don't use the front of your knife, dummy, use the back. Front's dull, that's just the way it is. Now your whole knife should be sharp. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you want the pressure, you want the strength, and you want the backside of this blade here to get your work done. So as you can see, that just slides right away. Whereas we have to, we really got to saw the front a little bit. Not a lot, but back of the blade, folks, look at that. Fall apart good. Alright, so this is our stir fry meat. Basically 2 pounds, 10 ounces. So pretty darn good. It got about an even amount this time. That's great. Alright, so this is our fat pile. And I know the camera's making it look like there's a lot more meat, but there really isn't. I did take a couple pieces of meat and chopped all this up. out of here, full pieces of meat, and put them in the stew pile. And so we definitely have over 2 pounds 10 ounces now. But this is all going to be for the rendered fat. You can see the big chunks of fat here. That's what most of this is. So we're going to weigh that out right now. Okay, so we got 1 pound, basically 8 ounces of fat that's been rendered out. Now what I'm gonna do is lay out everything for you and show you what we got. So while I'm at it, this is called Drip Easy. I couldn't remember it earlier to tell you, but this is the large one I've been cutting on. It's a collapsible tub, and you can see in the picture this lid is what I'm looking at right now. It snaps on tight. You can use it to shake and spice up everything, and she'll shake it and or carry it around or let it rest inside of it. Works as a cutting board, but they do have some deficiencies. For me, it's price, and also the rubber where it attaches to the cutting board part, it fails pretty quickly. They only have 90-day warranties. I'm going to show you another one that's from Sam's Club, and it's Cuisinart. So they may be a rip-off, but as far as like design, but there are a couple key features I like the locking side, so it doesn't collapse on you when there's food inside, because these ones are pretty soft, and also a drain plug inside. Also, no locks on the lid. Locks on the lid seem nice, like you can see in the picture, but they're also a pain in the butt when you're trying to work with dirty hands or food-covered hands. So in this case, this works out a lot better without the locks on it, and I prefer these, but there's only one size available. So let me show you that one in black and gray. It's like identical to these and half the price for the medium size. Now, this is the first time I showcase this Cuisinart. I was going to make a separate post on it and pictures, and I think I still will. But as you can see, this has a lid too. It's the same lid, same corner lip, a little bit better actually, but no locks, nothing to get in your way. So this is also collapsible, and has a drain in the bottom that just unscrews quarter turn. So I'm gonna have my wife collapse it real quick. First, she has to undo the sides. Turn it to the side so I can see it showing the sides. Okay. Those just fold up underneath. It just helps with stability. Okay, turn it over. Now these collapse a lot harder, which I like. Okay, but see, now it's the same cutting board as I was using. And go ahead and take out the drain plug. It's just like a quarter turn. Pulls right out. And put it back in. And the beautiful thing about both brands is they have this drip catcher. So when you are using it for something juicy, it all goes into here, and you can either drain it out if you have it all the way up as a tub, or you can just dump the whole thing on the drip tray if you leave it flat. And with the locking sides, you don't have to worry about collapsing on you while you're carrying it with something hot inside when the plastic, the rubber heats up. So go ahead and pull it back up. You can see the only one difference is they have this plastic seal in the middle between the rubbers. I think that gives it a little bit more strength. So you lock those things up underneath the handles on the side, and you're good to go. So that's the gist of that. So sunlight's not our friend right now, but you can see how these fold back up from underneath, and then they lock under the handle so it can't collapse. One other thing I wanted to show you, the lid does double as a serving tray, and or if you want a cutting board. I don't think you're gonna get your $15 back if you bust it though, but it's pretty sturdy. So this is on the bottom side of the lid. You flip it over and you have a serving tray as well. This large butcher knife I purchased from the Cooking Guild. They got really nice knife sets. There are always better knives out there, but these work really well for me. This one's a Rapala. It is literally a fillet knife. I love using it for this meat. It works great, as you've seen. And when I'm fishing for my tackle box. I do not get paid or sponsored by any of these people for the Drip Easy, the Cuisinart tubs, either one of those, or these knives. I just wanted to show you what I use. And I got a great honing set that actually comes out these two guys, and these come from Gunther Willem. They're a German steel knife set that I have, all 440 stainless steel, and they used to sell them at Costco. I don't know if they still do, but that's where I got them years ago. This is part of a set, and again, all different brands here. Again, not sponsored by any of them, just wanted to show you what I use. And also, the last thing was my my stone sharpener that I use to sharpen my fillet knife that I always use. to keep it razor sharp for filleting fish and everything else. That was also a nice name brand item. It wasn't a cheap one. I can't remember off the top of my head the name brand of that one, but I just used it the other day, and it's a Japanese stone. It's got 1,000 grit and 3,000 grit. Highly recommend those. You need those to keep your knife sharp and do your butchering properly. Kamikoto. This is a knife set I also have. High-end knives are cheap, and they come in a nice wood box. Look at this. This is a magnetic box. Yeah, I know mine's a little dirty already, but I don't want to touch that yet with my meat gloves. But they give you this beautiful wooden stand for it, and you got 1,000, 3,000 grit, and it's got the name built on it. And this is the sharpener the stone that I use. So there you go. Again, not sponsored by any of these, just showing you what I use. Okay, so here we go. This is what we got. We got the chucks, 10 of those, 8 of the small Denvers, 3 flat irons, and the 3 tenderloins, and then all this stir fry, stew, and fat that'll be rendered. And that's the gist of it. You can see. And we'll get it from a different angle too. But I mean, it all looks good to me, right? So we're gonna weigh all these out now, and I'll tell you roughly what the ounces are. We just put the averages, we weigh them all together, all that, and we'll do that last. Okay, so there's a better shot. I'm 6 foot, so that's about as best I can get for you guys. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do the little Denvers in the packs of 4 we have done so far, and I'll show at the end all the chucks and packs of 2s and 3s based on quality. All zipped up and weighed. We ended up with 6.84 pounds of chuck steak, 1.5 pounds of Denver steak, 2.61 pounds of flat iron steak, 1.12 pounds of tenderloin steak, 3 pounds of stir fry meat, 3 pounds of stew meat, and 1.8 pounds of fat for tallow or whatever else you want to use it for. So that equaled, originally I'd said 10 chucks, 8 Denvers, and the flat irons, 3 of those, tenderloins, basically 3 of those, and the rest is on the paper. So there you go, there you have it. And take that out of the way, and this is what we ended up with. All sealed up and ready for the freezer or immediate use, whatever you'd like. Hope you enjoyed this video, and this is dedicated to my dad in heaven. Thank you for teaching me how to cook. Love you. So like I said, I was going to show you what we had the last 2 times. The very first time ended up with, as you can see on the screen, 12 6 to 7 ounce Denver steaks, 10 to 12 ounce chuck eye steaks, 2.5 pounds of chuck roast, 3 pounds of stew meat, and 1 pound of stir fry meat. And this last one was 7 5.5 ounce Denver steaks, 9 6 ounce ranch steaks, 6 10 ounce chuck eye steaks, 3 13 ounce flat iron steaks, 2 7 ounce tenderloin steaks, 2.5 pounds of stew meat, 1.5 pounds of stir fry meat, 2 pounds of fat for beef tallow. Now each one, like I said, is going to be different, but as you can see here, it's even different on these 2. Just the last 2 I did. So keep that in mind when you're doing everything. And if you notice there wasn't even tallow on the first one, I don't know if I just forgot to put that in or if we just ended up not having a lot of fat on that one. Either way, yeah, do what you want to do. Do what you need to do. God bless you.